I'm Joe Halco, your host, and welcome to another episode of NCSS Here for You. Since 1958, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to high-quality services which promote healthy living and emotional well-being for the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. We take our role in the community seriously and strive to provide a continuum of the highest quality services to meet the needs of individuals who at any point seek assistance with emotional and behavioral challenges, their mental health, substance use, or an intellectual or developmental disability. This month, we'll be discussing recent changes to the system of care as it relates to individuals with an intellectual or developmental disability. We'll also discuss the programs and services that NCSS continues to provide with the goal of assisting each individual to live their life as independently as possible. To discuss NCSS's role in assisting individuals with an intellectual or developmental disability, I'm pleased to introduce this month's guests. There's Samantha Thomas, the Developmental Services Division Director, that's a mouthful, Sam, and Heather Hubbard, Residential and Emergency Services Program Manager. Sam and Heather, I'd like to welcome you to the program this month.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let us begin because there's so much going on. I've heard about some of the changes in the DS system of care, and can you explain?
Yeah, sure. We've been undergoing some pretty significant changes in our larger DS system across the state, and some have said that they are the biggest changes since the closing of the Brandon Training School 30 plus years ago.
That's a long time ago, yeah.
Or 30 exactly years ago, maybe even. We have welcomed some new partners into our work due to conflict of interest-free case management and some changes in our intake eligibility and referral process. And we also have a new payment model. Our state partners were required to shift and change our payment model to ensure that the model is transparent, effective, equitable, accountable, and sustainable. So a couple of those elements are ensuring that rates that are paid across the state are the same and are consistent, and that the state can really see the services that we are providing and that individuals are receiving. These changes went into effect in October of last year, so October 1st, 2025. We're about 6 months in to this transition, and we've really been working within the new payment model and with these new partners to try to make this transition as smooth as possible for the people that we support, because these changes are so significant. So we've been working collaboratively with our new partners and with the state to just make this as smooth as possible for the people that we serve.
And, I would imagine because with so much change and that you really want to, as much as you can, make this seem seamless to the people that you're providing services to, because, otherwise I know it can really confuse them and perhaps make them think that you're trying to shed some responsibilities that you had before, which you're not.
Right.
But I'm just trying to look at it from the standpoint of the individual receiving services, and with all this change, and sometimes how things can get received. So I do certainly applaud the fact you try to do it as seamlessly as possible.
Yeah, our system is really complex.
Yes.
It was complex as it was, and with these new changes, it's a shift and an adjustment for people. Yeah. Some folks are sharing with us that some of the changes they're really experiencing very positively. So we love to hear that.
Sure. So let's talk about one thing that you did mention, and that is for the viewers and listeners, what is conflict of interest-free case management?
Yeah. So for a long time, the system in Vermont has worked really well. It's helped a lot of different people. But over time, we have to make changes so that we can improve and continue to grow. and modernize the supports and services that we are delivering. There was a shift in the home and community-based services federal policy that guides our services, and that required us to separate direct service from case management. So what happened is we separated the case management and added a case management organization, and each individual that we serve is provided a case manager of their choosing, so they get to choose, and that's the big part of it, is about choice and dignity and respect. And then they also, it separates so that they're allowed to determine what agency they want support from. So individuals that we served can look at all the options and communicate with their case manager without feeling pressured from a service organization. Additionally, it also separated the intake process and took it away from the designated agencies that have done it for a long time, and now there's a centralized single intake organization that does that for our services.
So that really was leading me into my next question, which is, has that been affected as well? And if so, how different would that be from their perspective, And
Yeah.
Yep.
So the intake process has been updated to try to make it more user-friendly. So previously, each agency did the intakes into developmental services and determined eligibility. So there were nuanced differences from agency to agency in those processes. So moving it away from the local provider and into a centralized intake will allow families a central way to contact and engage in that process. The goal is to ensure that people have an equal and fair access to supports and services.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think one of the ways when we just kind of go back to trying to make the transition as smooth as possible is, we've had the same intake specialist for over 15 years. And so what we've been able to do is, though the intake process for developmental services as a whole has shifted, our intake specialist is still the same person. And so if someone hasn't heard about Public Consulting Group or PCG, that organization which is doing the intake eligibility and referral, they can still call NCSS, speak with our DS intake coordinator, and she can provide the information for them to know what those next steps are, who to call, all of those pieces.
Absolutely.
So really, even though there is this shift, there's still the ability to, continue to get the information that you need initially from NCSS if it comes to that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So let's look at services that NCSS provides individuals with intellectual and developed disabilities in our community.
Absolutely. I think that I appreciate the opportunity to share with the viewers that despite these significant changes, we're still doing what we've always done.
Sure.
We're still providing high quality supports from our employment team to community support, in-home supports, therapy, and some of the unique programs that we offer.
And I think at this point, what I'd like to do is let's break some of these down, because each and every one of them has so many positive points, and they're all unique and different. That's why they're different programs. But I think because of all the change, that it's important that we kind of take each one separately, and let's just talk about what the organization continues to offer the way you always have before. So let's start with the robust employment program that we all know is so critical for individual self-esteem.
Absolutely. I'm really proud of our employment team. They do an incredible job supporting the individuals that we serve who are interested in getting a job to find the right job, obtain that job, and get a job with competitive pay.
Yes.
I think that's an element of it that's really important to talk about as well. We have 2 roles on our employment team. We have job developers, And those two individuals really spend their time building relationships with local employers. So they're reaching out to businesses around and in our community to introduce themselves, talk about what the opportunities are if they want to partner with our employment team. And they do that so that the folks that we serve have as wide a variety as possible of options for employment to explore so that they can really match them with their interests and skills that they possess currently. And it's really fun to hear some of the success stories and the matches that get made. Some individuals who have had, dreams of being in a certain kind of job, and then our employment team helps them to get that job. It's pretty spectacular. The job developers also help them to apply for a job, build skills if they to interview, if an interview is part of that process. And then we have our job coaches, and they're really doing the on-the-job support to individuals so that the individuals can develop the skills necessary to be successful and as independent as possible on the job.
Yes.
Some people that we serve get some support from job development. They get the job and off they go. They start working independently and off they go. Others start with some job coaching support for a stretch and then move into independence. And then there are some folks who utilize the job coaching support for the duration of their employment.
Sure.
And one of the things that I always think about is during the COVID pandemic, when things shut down and people weren't working, when all of the restrictions were lifted, businesses were able to open up back, as close to how they were as before. Each employer called our employment team and said, "We're ready for so-and-so to come back. Here's how we're doing it. Are they ready to come back?" And that was just really, really lovely. And we've had such incredible commitment and relationships built with some of our local employers that are giving people some really incredible opportunities to be a part of our community in that way, the way that they want.
Yeah, and I would say that many people would be very surprised at the number of businesses locally where these individuals are at. And I think, kudos to them for initially, because you think about the very first time a job developer goes in and they want to talk about the subject of blah, blah, blah. And I mean, depending on a business's situation, they could very easily just say, well, that's not for us or whatever. But the one thing I can always recall hearing so often is that employers would say, these individuals are the most loyal people they have on their staff. They can count on them. Granted, they're not working a 40-hour week, but the fact remains that for the time that they are there and for the fact that they're working, X number of days and or hours a week, that they could always count on them.
Absolutely.
And, in today's world, as we all know, sometimes that's a challenge for employers to have staff that they can truly always count on being there day in and day out.
Absolutely. And that's another point of pride around our employment team is for many individuals, we are providing transportation for them to get to work.
Yeah.
And I often describe the coordination that our employment team leader and one of our job developers who works on the schedule does as air traffic control. The amount of coordination that they are putting around getting folks to jobs, picking up from jobs, making sure they have proper job support. It's really, it's a lot, and they are just so passionate about it. It's really wonderful to see.
Yeah, that is like all these teams you're going to talk about, but certainly an amazing team, the employment team. So let's move on to the types of community support that NCSS offers.
Yeah, so we offer community support in a variety of ways. It's really person-centered, so what someone is looking for. So everyone we support has an ISA where they created goals. In our community support, team, what they do is they support individuals out in the community to meet those goals. So maybe one person wants to work on physical fitness, so we might support them at the gym. Or someone else wants to learn how to budget money, so we might support them with banking or
Sure.
grocery shopping and comparing prices so that they gain those skills so that they can become more independent, because ultimately our community support workers are trying to work themselves out of a job. We want people to be independent and not
Sure.
need that support.
Sure.
So in the community, we have direct support professionals and behavior interventionists that support people. It can occur in a group or individually. It's really what the individual wants. So some people like to go out with peers that they've known for a long time, and they enjoy that, and they have similar goals, so it aligns and they do that. And other people like to go out because they have goals that are their personal goals that don't align with other people, and they want the time to work on them independently. What is really great with our community support staff is they're creative. They'll think of ways to support the individuals because we are in a rural area, and sometimes there are not many resources available or things to do. So they might create activities that allow people to get together, because a lot of the people do go out during the daytime, so they're creating these activities so people can come together and work on the skills they want to develop, but do it in a way that's meaningful to them.
Now, Heather, for the viewer or listener who may not be familiar, when you said ISA, could you explain that acronym and what that stands for?
So it's an individual support agreement, so
Okay.
it is similar to a treatment plan.
I just wanted to make
Yep.
sure if somebody's wondering what in the world does that mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for doing that. So can we now move on to, can you explain in-home supports?
Sure, absolutely. So some of the folks that we support want and need some support in and around their homes to achieve the goals that they've identified with their team that are identified on that individual support agreement. We provide staffed support so that the individual can be as independent as possible, and that support is very individualized. It could look like one of our DSPs, direct support professionals, heading over to the individual's home. They might have a plan that week to write up a grocery list. Then they might head to the grocery store to do grocery shopping. And then they might head back home to start to prep a meal or put things away. They might help and support around completing laundry or some other tasks around the home that individual just needs a little bit of extra support around to be able to be as independent, as possible. So that in-home support is a really great opportunity for us to capture and provide
Really
that
is.
support in the home in conjunction and to supplement some of the community support that people have.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's important. I think a lot of times, everybody goes about their day, but thinking in terms of an individual that is really has impairments where they can't do things as quickly or as easily as, someone that's fully functioning. And the importance of what the organization's providing and how critical it is to that person, and as you say, trying to live as independently as they can.
Absolutely. And I think we really work with our staff, and we look for any opportunities that we can to share this with community members that, excuse me, when we're working with individuals, there is a term that we use called presumed competence. And so rather than assuming or presuming that an individual that we serve can't do something, we assume that they can, but we offer support and just say, let us know what you need, and there's assessments and tools that we use to help us identify that. But we want folks to know that we believe in them, and we know that they have skills and attributes that others might not see so clearly.
Yeah. So let's move on to what therapy is available.
Absolutely. We have at NCSS therapy across all of our service divisions. And in DS, we have 3 part-time clinicians and 1 full-time clinician. And they provide both group and individual therapy. The clinicians utilize different therapeutic models based on their training and based on the needs of the individual. One type of therapy that we employ a lot is dialectical behavior therapy. It is a great model for developing skills. It's a model that our clinicians have used really successfully in groups. And individuals really enjoy coming to DBT group and learning those skills. And our clinicians train our staff around DBT skills so that if an individual's in a DBT group or getting individual DBT therapy, their support staff can know the language around the skills. Their support staff can know what distress tolerance is, and be able to help the individual, keep those skills developing in kind of all the areas of their lives, which helps tremendously to cement those skills. Yeah.
Now, can you explain some of the unique and innovative services that are provided, such as the Academy of Learning and Program for Adaptive and Expressive Arts?
The Academy of Learning, which we call AOL, the AOL program, is incredibly popular. If I can even go back to our the time of the pandemic, when we were again coming out of it, folks were out and about more. The biggest request that I would hear from people is, when's the AOL opening back up? We want to come and learn, and we want to see our friends. And so we just love the AOL program. Their mission is to create an inclusive and supportive environment that encourages individuals to have personal growth and independence. And at the AOL, both in our location and then out in the community, we provide opportunities to build skills for daily living, deepen knowledge of health and wellness, engage in volunteer opportunities, and recreational opportunities within the community. Lots of opportunities for social experiences that allow for really meaningful peer connections. And I think what's important, particularly around this program, to note is that what's developed and what's offered with AOL is guided by the individuals who participate, their choice and feedback. They let us know what they want to be doing, what they want to be learning, elements that are going to help them to achieve their goals and meet their needs. Kind of referencing back to the therapy, our clinicians will go down during the AOL day if the group's at the building, and they'll offer educational groups. They've offered a DBT group down there. And that's a nice opportunity to help get some access for folks who maybe it would be harder for them to access that educational group if they weren't already participating in the AOL program.
And, excuse me. Program for expressive and, geez, I had it backwards. Program for Adaptive and Expressive Arts, which I know was a huge launch many years ago. I think back in 2008 or something like that.
I think even 2005.
Even earlier than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so over 20 years ago.
Yeah. I have to say, as a music lover myself, I love our PAEA program. They provide a really unique opportunity for folks to express themselves through different artistic mediums, through art, music. We have sensory support and sensory opportunities, which can be really helpful for people to build regulation skills. And many of the benefits for art, music, and sensory are improved regulation, improved communication skills, fine motor skills, self-expression. The benefits kind of go on. And the one standout for me is that we have one individual who was able to, with the support of their pay a music associate, write their own original song and perform that song in front of their peers in the community.
Wow.
And there really wasn't a dry eye on the house. It was pretty incredible. And so it's lovely to see the opportunities that people have, and they love coming to music. We have some groups that they get together. It can get, the drums can, when they're rolling, the drums can get loud in the halls. I feel so grateful that the group of folks that developed this program, 20 years ago,
Yes.
developed it, and that we have the opportunity to bring it forward and continue to have it be an opportunity for the people that we serve.
Yeah, it has meant a lot to a lot of people. I know that over the years. I've heard about residential options. Can we talk about those?
Yeah. So we have various residential options. So like Sam talked about earlier, we'll support people living independently in their own homes. Then we have a shared living program. So this is a program that's really about supporting people to find a true sense of home, where they still have their independence and they have their own space, but they have the support and care of a provider that can help them develop skills and support with things that may pose more of a challenge during the day that they need support with. They have their own space in a home. They get choice in this, where they want to live. A lot of people get to pick like what room color you want, those kind of things. So that is a very cool program. They focus on developing independence, and I think it's really cool when you see someone who starts out living with a shared living provider and then they do move to live independently, and you can really see the skills that they developed from within that home. So that is one thing. Then we have several micro-residential programs. So these programs support 1 to 2 individuals. They're staffed by our staff 24 hours a day. The individuals in the home, they receive supports in every area that they need that is outlined in their individual support agreement. So we might support with any medical needs. If individuals have behavior support needs, we support with that. If people want to develop skills around independence, we work with them on that. We support people out in the community. Occasionally, our residential team will support individuals that reside within the house at a job, so they might support them. So really, they get to develop relationships with staff that support them through all aspects of their life. The program's goals is for people to become more independent and develop skills so that they can eventually move into a different setting. Then we have a group home that supports 6 individuals, and that home provides the same type of support, that is person-centered and focus on dignity and respect, but it also supports individuals with a bit more of medical need than our other homes that may be a little bit too much for a shared living provider, but we don't want seniors that are aging in our community to have to go into a nursing home. So they're able to go here and they reside there. They engage in activities that they choose. I think they really like going out together. It's great to see the friendships that they created with people that they may not have had a chance to before.
Well, I will tell you, we could talk a lot longer, but terrific programming that NCSS provides, and you should be very proud of it. So with that, I'd like to thank my guests, Samantha Thomas and Heather Hubbard, for sharing their insights on recent changes to the system of care and the programs and services that NCSS continues to provide individuals with an intellectual or developmental disability. I also want to thank you, our viewers and listeners, for spending time with us again this month. You can learn more about all of our programs and services by logging on to ncssinc.org. I'm Joe Helko, and I'll be back next month with another episode of NCSS Here for You.